So Steve's well known for catching loads and loads of big fish down the edge venues like Allcroft, and he's going to run you through his edge mix, how to mix it and how to get the best out of these ground baits.
Right, yeah, I mean, the thing what I do is I try and base my mix around one mix. And the one mix I use is a method competition. Now I class as my base mix. So anything that I want to add, I will add to this mix. So for instance, I'll use a lot of this krill ground bait. Now the krill ground bait is reddish in colour, which again I'll go through in a minute when I mix it, and I'll show you exactly the reason why I use it and what the difference is between each ground bait. But we have two different mixes and for two different purposes, and we'll just run through it now to show you. So all I do first, obviously your dry ingredients go straight into a big bucket. Make sure you use a big bucket and not a little bowl, because obviously you need to try and get as much air into it as you possibly can. So I just mix both mixes together, so they're in 1 kilo bags, so that's just a 2 kilo mix there. Obviously I'll just give it a quick whisk round dry. So that's the mix dry. Now the thing with this ground bait is, what you can do with an edge mix is something a little bit different to what you really don't want to do with a lot of your ground baits that you mix, is you can almost ruin it. So I know it sounds silly, but you can almost ruin your mix at the start because of the amount of water that they actually take in. So what I'll show you is, as you can see there, I'm literally putting 2 full tubs of water in my ground bait there. I mean, before I mixed it, it looks silly, you know, it looks sloppy and things like that, but I'll just give it a quick mix. So it doesn't actually take much doing because of the amount of water that you've put in, and as I say, it looks a complete slop. I think you'd agree, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
you know, you wouldn't. It just looks wrong. You know, it looks wrong. But the thing what you have to do is you have to make sure that the ground bait's over wetted at the start, because what happens is, as you're leaving it, because now, for instance, I'll leave that 10-15 minutes, and I'll come back to that, and it'll be a totally different mix. Once everything's soaked all the particles in, it'll be a totally different mix again. And then what we'll do is we'll come back to it, and I'll show you exactly how to do it from there.
One thing with that as well, Steve, I know a lot of people use a ground bait mix down the edge with lots of big particles and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously that hasn't got them in. I assume that's so you can tailor it and add what particles you want.
I mean, the thing what I do like, I like krill because obviously it's got a lot of, not particles, but it's got a lot of natural feed in there anyway, which fish actually like. But me personally, I prefer to like you say, tailor what I put in my mix. So for instance, if I want to put 20 grains of corn, if I add them all at the start, I can't determine how much, you know, what's in my mix. So for instance, if I'm getting silly, lots of liners and things like that, then I can't take it out. Do you get what I mean? But by having a mix that's not got lots of particles in, and I can tailor how much I'm putting in at the time, then I can reduce the amount of line bites and things like that I get, and obviously you're going to fish a lot, you know, it's going to be a lot better for you to fish. Yeah.
So brilliant mix, perfect for all your edge work.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it's already starting to take that water in.
Yeah.
But like I said, we'll give that 15 minutes and we'll come back to it and see what happens.
Yeah. So with the mix I'm going to show you, mine's more of a method feeder mix. Obviously, where you can put lots and lots of water in one going, Steve, you need to be a little bit more careful with this. If you're over wet it, it's not going to stick to your feeder. If you're under wet it, again, it's not going to stick to your feeder. So I've based my mix around these two mixes. Black halibut I like to put in because that's a very sticky ground bait. You can add as much as you want to sort of tailor your mix to be more sticky, less sticky, and get it perfect. So the more of this you put in, the stickier your ground bait's going to go. I mean, for this I'm just going to go 50-50, so it'll bind nicely, and this green mussel will help it break down. So same again, we'll put both bags into a nice deep bowl.
You smell that, can't you?
Yeah, lovely strong smell.
It is strong, that
a lot of attraction.
Yeah.
And then I think by adding the green as well, you're also changing the mix, which matches the bottom on a lot of lakes, matches the water colour. You get this green tinge to commercial fisheries. So I'll get the two, if you can just pass me the whisk. Well, same again, always mix your ingredients dry, get them blended in together. Once you add water, they sort of start clumping together and they're not going to mix as well. So, same again. Now, rather than add a huge amount of water in one go, we're just going to add a little bit at a time. So I'll start off, I've got my box, there's probably a pint in there. Now, you can instantly see that's not going to be wet enough, that's not going to bind around your feeder. But it's not a million miles off because it is gripping, and you need it to stay dry enough that it's going to fall apart.
So again, that's different to mine, because mine had 3 straight away. 3, you know, 3 full 2 pints.
Exactly. So I'll add the same amount again now, another pint of water.
Yeah.
Give it a good mix, make sure everything's mixed together. You're not going to get any spots where it's a lot wetter than others. And now you can see that's much better. So if we give it a squeeze, firm squeeze, it's staying in a ball. Can't break that up. Rub it between my hands. We've got that nice fine powdery ground bait again. So it'll break down nice and quick. You've obviously got your bait buried in your method ball and it's there ready. But same as Steve, we're going to have to leave that now to settle. We'll probably have to get a little bit more water in it to keep it at this same consistency. But you know it's right when you can squeeze that ball and it just breaks straight up in your hands.
Right, 15 minutes has passed and I've come back to my ground bait, and as you can see, all I've done is just give it a quick whisk. I've added no more water to it, and as you can see there, from the consistency of that, I've actually don't need to add any more water. The amount at the start were enough, which is, again, it's quite good. But what the difference is my mix has come to a more of a fluffy mix, although it's heavy and sticky because of the amount of water that I've mixed into it at the start. I haven't had to add any more water, but I know that this will hit the water and go straight to the bottom.
It was saturated earlier, wasn't it? Obviously now you can see
I
it.
mean it's
back in its ground bait form. Slightly overwetted.
Yeah, it's slightly overwetted just for the stickiness reason, really.
Yeah.
Because I want this to go to the bottom. Because I'm cupping it in loose, I'm not a big fan of making a ball of it and things like that. I like to scoop it out of my pot, give it a quick squeeze, put it into me, you know, and I like to think that it goes straight to the bottom. And that's personally how I do it. You know, that's
similar to what I do.
But what I do is, because for that reason, I have to overwet it at the start. If you're making a ball, obviously you'd probably mix it slightly different, but I don't go down that.
I want it to go straight to the bottom, stay on the bottom.
Stay on. So when
carp comes in, wafts it up, and it goes straight back down.
Straight back down.
You hook one, and it almost refeeds your peg.
That's it. Yeah. I mean, all you're doing once you do hook one is you're creating more attraction by when the fish bow wave away. Obviously, it creates a bigger area. But what I do like to do is, once I have hooked a fish, is put another ball in, say a ball, a pot. But I'm not doing that really to feed the fish, because I think there's a lot of ground bait on the bottom anyway. I'm doing it just purely to put them straight in the rod end.
With your few particles in there, give them a target.
That's exactly that. So yeah, so that's my ground bait, and that's how easy it is.
Right, so mine, I've come back to it, and you can see there that it just crumbles apart. That's no good whatsoever. It's not going to stick to your feeder. It's not going to make it to the bottom. You can tell the difference straight away. Falls apart. So obviously you need that ground bait to stay on your feeder intact, get to the bottom, and then break down. So what we're going to do is add a little bit more water. But same as before, we're not going to add loads. I'll take a little bit. Probably got a pint again in there, and I'll add it slowly this time, whisking as I go along. So give that a squeeze, and that's better again. As you can see, the bottom falls a bit more firm. I can tap it, it's not falling apart. That's now going to get to the bottom intact and break down just how we want. But it's still got that nice texture where if I rub it, as you can see again, it's all come apart. It's all particles of ground bait. It's going to make it to the bottom totally intact, just where we want it. So it's going to perform exactly how I want. Now through the day that will probably dry out slightly again, so if you just keep an atomizer, squirt a little bit on, give it a stir with your hand, and that'll just stay exactly how you want it.
Just one thing I want to ask you, do you riddle your ground bait? It's a question that I get asked all the time, and I'll be honest with mine, my edge rigs, my edge ground bait, I don't riddle it personally.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the way that's mixed up. There's no lumps, there's nothing in there to riddle out.
Okay.
If for some reason it did have some lumps, it was stuck together, I'd push it through a riddle.
Okay.
Obviously that stops your ball breaking down as evenly.
Yeah,
you want it broke down evenly, and you've got that nice powdery ground bait, loads of attraction, fish can suck it in dead easy.
Fantastic.
So as long as there's no lumps, I'll leave it, which to be honest with whisks these days,
yeah,
don't really have a problem with lumps.
Great.
Right, so we've showed you how me and Steve both mix these ground baits. Obviously, one's tailored to edge fishing, the other's tailored to fishing a method feeder, but they're mixed how they are for a specific job. So next time you're going out on the bank, just pop into your local Brown and Stockist and give these two mixes a try. I'm sure you'll catch loads of fish on them.